the Roots of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's always a pleasure welcoming in new users. Make sure that you subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever else you listen to your podcast. Now, if you're a regular, thank you so much for always coming back and tuning in to another episode. Your support is truly appreciated. Now, let's get into today's episode. My guest today is Mishumo Nemathaga. She's a South African living in South Africa. In this episode, Mishumo tells us that from primary school, she always knew that she wanted to do something related to biology. This love carried on all the way until her high school years, where she was even awarded the best student in biology. However, after completing high school, she went on to college and registered to be an electrical engineer. She explains the reasons behind the slight detour in her academic journey. After a gap year, Mishumo went on to register for a BSc degree in microbiology and zoology at the University of South Africa. Currently, she's an MSc student in agriculture at the same institution, focusing on animal science. Her research investigates a parasitic roundworm that infects village chickens. Mishumo tells us about this research and its importance. Apart from her studies, Mishumo is very passionate about the field of STEM in general. She's a Black Woman in Science Fellow 2021, and she also started her own Facebook page called Free Science to rate educational resources for high school students. She explains the importance of being part of fellowships and also creating spaces that support STEM initiatives. Tune in as we hear about this and so much more. Let's go. Hi, Mishumo. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited to have you, and thank you so much for honoring the invitation.
You're most welcome. Thank you for the invite.
It's a pleasure. So first things first, to get the ball rolling, I just want you to just give us a brief introduction. Who is Mishumo? Where are you currently based? And just briefly, what are you doing?
Okay, so I am a South African. I was born in South Africa, Limpopo, in a place called Venda. I'm the firstborn of my parents, but I do have a younger brother. I'm 11 years older than him. So yeah, that's me. That's a part of who I am and where I was born.
Before we get into everything that we do, I just like to ask people a quick something away from the science to just get to know you better. Okay, so if you are not sciencing, what can we expect you to be doing?
Okay, so if I'm not sciencing, what do I do? Okay, so I am a Christian. So I really love going to church. I'm a Sunday girl. I'm a Wednesday girl. I'm a Friday girl. So I really enjoy going to church. And for the pandemic, it's actually been kind of hard. Yeah. So I just usually go to church on Sundays, and I have like youth services at church on Saturdays. Or in fact, we have like practice because I'm part of the worship team. So we do that on Saturdays. Other than that, I'm an introvert, so I enjoy having time to myself. I enjoy just being in my room, going through articles, going through books. I feel like apart from science, I'm always with science. So in my spare time, I just try to learn more about other fields of science that I'm not in. So yeah, that's basically what I usually do.
Oh, fantastic. It's really great to hear that you are, how much you love church and that you're part of the worship team. So you sing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I do sing. But I'm not singing.
No, I'm not going to do that to you. Don't worry. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm
Thank
not.
you.
I'm not. But I always go like, I had a past principal who always used to say to us, everybody. What did he say? Oh, in primary school, he used to say everybody can sing. It's just that other people sing better than others, and you
And
definitely.
others. Yeah,
You're, you're,
that's very
you
true.
are definitely one of those other people who sing better. So I always go like, because I know I can sing, but just not worship team
Thank
sing.
you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay. So Mishumo, now you mentioned that if you're not sciencing, or rather you said that science is a big part of who you are. So even if you're not doing your research, you're looking through other things
Yeah.
to get to know more about science. So then this brings us to the beginning, the genesis. How do you even get into sciences? Is it something that you always knew that you wanted to do, or did it happen where you were influenced by other people? So what's your story?
Okay, so my first day that I actually told myself that when I grow up, I want to be a biologist. That's literally what I said to myself. So when I was in primary school, I really, really biology classes, but I don't think I was the smartest kid in class. I don't think I was. But I really enjoyed these two classes. Just the fact that we would learn about animals, we'd learn about plants, we just learn about nature. And I really, really enjoyed it to me. So there was just this other day, we just went to the computer center. That's what we call it, like where you go to the computer lab. And we were doing research for a mini project that we did. I think it was in grade 6. Yes, it was in grade 6. So we had this mini project. Probably it was on animals, and we just had to research a mammal or something. So I just decided, okay, why don't I just Google what life science means, or what biology means, or what natural science means? So I was just playing along around. The learners were actually doing that and just writing down everything that they needed for their projects. I just decided, okay, let me just Google and see what the internet will tell me. So yeah, that's when it actually started, because living organisms, it was talking about non-living, all talking about plants and animals. And that's where I actually got the word biology, because I didn't know the word biology. So then I just decided, okay, so it's talking about plants, it's talking about animals, it's talking about humans. Let me Google what biology means. So then from Googling what natural science or life science meant, I went on to Googling what biology meant. And I read through what biology. I was like, when I grow up, I want to be a biologist. And literally that day when I got home, I told my mom that I want to be a biologist. She didn't and that's where it started, in fact.
Wow, I love how determined you are and so
Yeah.
like how sure you were in yourself. Okay, so you have this, I want to be a biologist. What then? What happens after that?
So after that, okay, I complete primary school, I go on to high school. Okay, when I get to, because in South Africa, we choose like if you want to be in the science or the commerce or history subjects when we get to grade 10. So when I got to grade 10, it wasn't difficult. I knew I wanted to do science. So I did life science, I did physics, I did geography, I did maths, and 2 languages and life orientation. So yeah, I just continued on with science, and I really enjoyed my life science journey in high school as well. It was like my favorite. I was even top student in one of the years that I was in high school for life science, because I really, really enjoyed it. I was like literally determined, and I was willing to study night and day just because of the love that I had for it. So anyways, after completing high school, interesting enough, I went to a college and I registered to be an electrical engineer. So I don't know, I just somehow forgot about the idea. I don't know if it was peer pressure. I don't know if it was because I felt like if I did electrical engineer right after the courses, I would literally go into the workspace and it would be easier for me to get a job. based on the information that then, because obviously when you decide after high school what you want to do, you try kind of like look at options that will give you a better job, a job quicker, instead of you being a part of the unemployment statistics. So I was like, no, let me just do electrical engineer. So I registered for that. I paid, but I never went to classes because I just decided it wasn't what I wanted to do. So after matriculating, what we call a gap year, but it wasn't actually a gap year because it was only for like 6 months. And during that 6 months, I just had to reevaluate everything, like my future, my academic life, just try and figure out what I actually wanted to do. So then I decided to enroll with UNISA. And that's when I decided, okay, let me just register for microbiology, because UNISA did this 2 different streams. So, but then they were combined. So I decided that I wanted to do microbiology and zoology for my BSc. So that's what I ended up doing until today. So that's how it actually worked.
Wow, this is so interesting. I'm just going to touch back on what you said about how one would think when listening to your story, varsity, it's pretty straight and narrow. You're going to go into biological sciences. Then you went into this little detour. And I think it just goes to show that sometimes because of the visibility or the type of access that we have about STEM careers, we are limited in thinking that only engineering will get you to XYZ or might get you to this very amazing job. And you kind of doubted yourself, or you kind of went off on this detour. So it's pretty good that you had that life lesson to be like, okay, you know what? I went here, whatever the main reason was. You said you were still unsure whether it was peer pressure or whatnot. But I think but I think it's very important, because when we discuss about sciences, especially, all you think about is engineering or a doctor. You don't really talk about the other disciplines of life sciences. So it's really great that you eventually went back and you went and you studied. You found your passion again. So you went in and you studied microbiology and zoology, UNISA being University of South Africa, right? So I know now you are doing your MSc in agriculture. So how does that link up again? It seems like you have a very interesting journey. So talk to me through that.
Okay, so after doing my BSc, I went on to do my honors in microbiology. And then now I'm currently busy with my master's in agriculture, but I'm focusing on animal science. So it's a master's in agriculture focusing on animal science. So basically, I am doing the animal science part of it. It's not related to farming, if I could put it that way, agricultural farming. It's not related to that. It's related to animal science. Yeah. Because a lot of people kind of like ask me all the time, like, okay, you're doing a master's in agriculture, but then you were doing an honors in microbiology. Like, how did you get to a point where you now decide to do a master's in agriculture? I think maybe it's because of how the colleges are written at UNISA. It's kind of like confusing, but then it's still under the same science college. It's just that they've separated it. There's agriculture, there's life science, there's physiology. So I'm just under agriculture.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So now you mentioned that you're doing your master's in animal sciences, the study of yes, and parasitic roundworms that actually infect these village chickens. So can you tell us more about your involvement and why this project is so important?
Basically, the research is on parasites that are called Ascaria galli parasites, which are roundworms, and they cause diseases in chickens. But I'm studying the parasites that affect village chickens. So this means that all my lab samples will be from chickens that come from rural areas. So my research work will actually provide or actually help rural communities that rely on chickens for food. So basically, it will also help with the contribution that we as scientists are trying to bring when it comes to the global contribution to hunger, especially in Africa, because in Africa there's a lot of issues when it comes to hunger. For example, I can give examples in countries like Uganda and Kenya. There's an issue when it comes to malnutrition. So with this research, I'll be able to actually give better advice to farmers or landless communities that rear these chickens for food, because mostly that's what they do. They rear the chickens for food, but then if the chickens are dying, it's an issue, and then that could also cause hunger and malnutrition. So that's basically what my research is about.
Wow, that's so interesting. It's very interesting, and I like the fact that you are dealing with these small scale farmers in the village areas, because they obviously do not have access to, I don't know, a vet or people to actually test their chickens and how to.
Yeah, they definitely don't have access to vet. Yeah, and they kind of like don't know how to go about it when it comes to dying chickens. They really don't know what to do. So that's just basically the aim, to change that and to actually bring science into rural areas so that they can also have a means of life, because they use the chickens for food. They also use them to sell the chickens for money, and they use them to sell so that they can go to the clinic or just get a taxi fare. So it's really important.
Oh, fantastic. So yeah, the chickens are very beneficial to their livelihoods. I love the work that you're doing, and I love science that has got a societal aspect to it. Maybe it's biased because my research also touches on that. So I'm really excited, and I wish you all of the best for this research and all of the amazing results.
Thank you so much.
Which I'm sure you will gather in your time as a master's student. So you mentioned earlier that you do lab work, right? And
Yes.
We are in South Africa now, and there's a lockdown, and there was a lockdown last year. So I wanted to ask you, how has this been for you navigating these sort of stop starts to your research? Because your research really involves a lot of lab work. How have you navigated that?
Okay, so let me just give you my experience based on what happened last year, and then I'll just continue up to this year. So okay, lockdown started last year, right? And it was very challenging, especially the part where I had to learn how to do most of the stuff. And it was kind of like hard to communicate with my supervisor at times because of network problems, or because she wasn't available when I was available. She was busy with whatever she had to do on her side as a supervisor. So it was kind of hard, but then I'm just thankful that I had a very supportive, or in fact, I still have a very supportive supervisor. I managed to complete my honors in record time. I was able to complete my proposal. And then right after we got into like level 2, that's when I had to still wait for the university to actually say that, okay, now it's for students to come into the labs. I had to book lab days. It was kind of challenging, but then I ended up having my days in the lab. And yeah, it went very smoothly after that. I just did my lab work. I think it took a week for me to complete my lab work because it wasn't like a lot of work. So once I was done with that, I managed to complete my report, write my dissertation, and yeah, I managed to complete my honors. Then right after that, I was going into my master's. So at the moment, I don't have any lab work. I'm only busy with my proposal so that's very good, because we're having to go from level 2, and then all of a sudden we're on level 3, and then we're on level 4. It's really hectic. I don't even think I would be able to get any lab work done. So all my lab work for my master's will be next year, and I just hope that by then everything will be better.
Oh, okay. No, thank goodness that you're not severely impacted yet. And kudos to you for managing to finish your dissertation
Thank
last
you.
year through all of those stop starts. So I'm glad that you won't have for this year. Hopefully by 2022, life will be a little bit more better for us.
I'm also just happy that I don't have to do that. Having to go to the lab is another story.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So apart from the studies and your research, you also you just generally passionate about the field of science, technology, engineering. In fact, you also a Black Women in Science Fellow for this year, 2021. And apart from that, you also created a page on Facebook called Free Science to give resources to young people about science and past papers and etc. So why do you think these platforms which you are part of and also the ones that you've created are so important?
I think the one word that I can use for all of this is motivation. I feel like if you are not motivated by people who've walked the same journey or the same road, it will be difficult for you to actually have interest in something. So I motivated myself basically when it came to going into the science field. I just told myself that this is what I wanted to do. So I feel like having these platforms, especially where the platforms are surrounded by women, I feel like as a woman or as a young girl child in high school or in primary, you feel like, okay, so science is not that difficult. This person is doing it and she looks like she's enjoying it. So I feel like the most important thing, or the reason why I feel like these platforms are important, is just for motivation. So the reason why I also started my science page is because I wanted to motivate another young girl. I just wanted them to feel that it's okay to go into the science world. Science is not that difficult. And I just wanted to destroy this idea of science being a male dominated field, because historically that's what it is. A lot of males are found in engineering, they're found in the mathematical areas, they're found in technology, they're just found in STEM as a whole. So I just wanted to remind, or just to show other young girls that it's possible. Like, I'm moving forward, so it's honestly possible.
Oh wow, amazing. Yeah, you are being a visible role model to somebody else, and that's what I think this field needs. And speaking of motivation, as we close off this conversation, which has been really lovely, I wanted to ask you, what sort of words of advice would you give somebody who's interested in the field of STEM, in your field or just in general? What would you say to them, your little goal?
Okay, so first of all, I have to be honest, it's a very, very challenging field. So as much as it is challenging, it is important for you to actually take the journey with an open mind and willingness to actually learn from your mistakes, because you are going to make mistakes. And those mistakes are not there to destroy you, but they are there to make you stronger. So number one, it's important to go there with an open mind. And then number two, you need to believe in yourself and you need to believe in your abilities. You need to set goals, you need to set aspirations and interests. And you need to also have values that you continue to follow as you go through your academic journey. And then number three, you need to also remember that we make academic choices every single day. Like, I make choices work every single day. It's either I choose not to, or I choose to actually do something. Choices every day. And it's important to aim high. Don't limit yourself and just go for it. And the last thing that I would say is that you need to have zeal for what you're doing. and you need to also be brave enough to go through the STEM fields and persevere. You need to really persevere and go for it. You're worth it at the end of the day, and remember that you're not doing it for anybody else but yourself.
Yeah, wow. So many amazing takeaways that you've left us with, and all of them so true. And it's really great to hear how passionate you are about motivating others, and just how much, just from hearing this conversation, how the young girl who knew what she wanted to be in primary school, to where you are now. And I'm pretty excited for you and your future successes. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and just having a lovely chat with me today.
Thank you for having me. This is truly amazing and a great opportunity. I'm actually honored. So thank you so much.
Oh, you are most welcome. You are most welcome. And to everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Rich of the Suns podcast with your girl Anne with an E. Until next time, goodbye.